everybody, and welcome back to the porch. I'm Sierra Ram Cantrell, and I am joined by Amy Yakowski and Rob Hunter. And we are here for our weekly Stoic book club, if you will. And we are reading from a handbook for new Stoics. I hope you're following along. If you're not, go ahead and just jump in and join us anytime. This week, we are on week 25. Can you guys believe we're almost halfway through the book?
No,
Wild.
it's crazy.
So the title of the chapter is Deal Virtuously with Frustrating People. And this chapter was quite a doozy. So hopefully I can recap us and get us on our way. So the way we view other people's actions can affect how we feel and act towards them. They give us an example of Lynn, and she usually works with her coworker Seth, who usually always is very reliable, does a great job, but he keeps dropping the ball and giving Lynn a lot of extra work. And when she confronts him about it, she finds out that he's dealing with a lot of his own stuff. And this changes her attitude towards his action of dropping the ball at work. What kind of Stoic practice could help this paradigm shift happen more frequently, especially with people that we find frustrating? Now, people or situations that we find frustrating. And honestly, there are going to be people and situations that are frustrating. I'll just go out on a limb here and say every single day of everybody's life.
Yes.
Whether the big interactions are small, they come in many forms.
Yes. They do, and it is going to happen. So premeditatio malorum, we are going to make a plan. So we have this, Amy lives for the Greek quotes, and this one does not disappoint. It's on 2 pages, people.
Yeah, it's a big reminder.
It is a Christmas present to Amy because she loves this. So this is Marcus Aurelius from Meditations. He is actually outlining in 9 steps about how this works. So let me do a little recap for you. First, we are made for one another, people. Second, what are we like? What of our principles hold binding? And how far does pride go into their conduct? So when people do things, how much is just out of your pride or your ego? Third, if everybody's doing right, then you don't have to be upset. Fourth, you are like other people and you do things wrong. So even if you're doing pretty good, you don't have to call them out, right? Fifth, you can't be sure that if they're doing wrong because they could have a different set of virtues that they're working with. Sixth, when you're getting upset, remember that another person has their own life and that we all are mortal. 7th, men's actions cannot agitate us unless our views regarding them make it that way. Get rid of the judgment and you're going to get rid of your anger that comes into effect. 8, when you are conscious about your actions, then the acts that are happening to you are going to bother you less. And 9th is all about kindness. Even when people are aggressive to us, how can we react in kindness in accordance with our own virtues? So this is a lot of information, a lot to digest. Now, in this chapter, they are not asking us to conquer all 9 of these steps at once. They are asking us to pick maybe 2 that really resonate with us, that we want to work on, and focus on that aspect of this. So our long list, actually, I'm sorry, I skipped 1, and 10, and lastly, don't expect people to do wrong because that's not going to happen. Don't expect the world to be perfect, but don't hurt other people. Do your duty as a human being. So I'm sorry, 10. I stand corrected. See, I'm completely fallible.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
So Marcus is suggesting these 10 principles. So I want to know, what did you guys pick It says you can pick up to 3 as the principles you wanted to focus on.
I chose 3.5 because there was a half one in there that I liked as well. So the ones that I chose was number 4. Don't feel superior to other people. You are just as fallible and just as likely to do wrong as others. Number 5, don't presume to know what other people's motivations are. I basically said, you don't have all the facts. You don't know what's going on. And so don't judge them accordingly unless you know everything that's happening. Case in point, Lynn and Seth. And then number 7, which I summarized as, our opinions often hurt us more than the act itself. Basically, the amount of time, effort, energy that we spend getting upset about a presumed wrong done to us or a frustration is often a lot more than the act itself. And then the half one was, I said number 6, which is just always keeping in mind that you're mortal and human life is brief, and how important is this thing really in the grand scheme of things?
This is like really channeling our inner Jedi is what it is. If you want to use the lessons that Yoda was trying to teach Luke Skywalker, controlling your feelings, controlling your emotions. That's the biggest one for me. So I piggyback on you and just that, Amy, and that the more in control of those you are, the calmer you are, and you're able to adapt to any situation. And that's the skills that being a Stoic and going through these exercises really is standing out to me through these 25 weeks, is that being the most important. Because when you control your emotions, you're less likely to be judgmental, which is the second one I picked up on. And just overall broadening it out a little bit and not picking a number and assigning a number to it, because what that Amy just said is right. It's your judgments come from your own emotions and feelings, typically. And you spend a lot of time on those. So I just read this book by my favorite author, Lee Child. He writes the Jack Reacher series, and he spends a lot of time in the book, not the one that just came out, if you're a Reacher fan, the one from last year, I think it's called Blue Moon. And he talks about don't cry over spilled milk a lot. Why? Wasted energy. The milk's already spilled. So why bother worrying about that? Same thing. Why judge when the milk spilled? Why? What did I do wrong? Just clean the milk up and move on, because there's no sense in trying to replay that over and over again. And the third one that stuck out to me is the one I love the most, is these all tie together, is human beings are meant to collaborate, which is the first point that Marcus Aurelius makes. That is a belief that I've always had. I've never put it in such terms because I've always prided myself in my ability to be able to communicate with and find common ground with just about anybody. What about you, Sierra?
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of in the same. I really loved that first point about we are all members of the human population here to help each other. That definitely resonated. And I think in the times we're in right now, we're still in the midst of COVID, and a lot of people are very isolated. So it can be easy to forget about working together, because right now we're kind of very much our own little islands, but humans, and we're collaborating now from across the country. So we are collaborating together. When you put 2 heads together, it's better than one. So I did love that. But for me, my focus on this exercise, I tried to pick the things that were hardest for me to do, which is number 7, my opinion of others doing is in my power. And number 8, by being upset about it, I'm doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that if I'm being upset and doing more harm than good, then I need to refer back to humans are, number 1, humans are here to help each other, and see if I could find a way, instead of having a big opinion about it, to find a way to bring it back to a collaboration.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you gave yourself a nice reminder there that if you can remind yourself of that, and again, going back to stimulus, someone annoys you, someone upsets you, space before you actually react. Like in my communications course, we have a meme up there that says, I'm not responsible for my first action, but my first thought. I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I am responsible for my second thought and my first action. that's such a great quote to remind yourself that you have the opportunity to do that. And I think this is how we kind of evolve as human beings. And if we ever get to the point where we can evolve, we can all work together and get past these petty little differences over opinions, which we don't really control the outcome of. It's just an opinion. But we get so emotionally attached to those opinions, that's when it can become difficult to collaborate, because that emotion takes over your body and it doesn't let you communicate effectively to the other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's another, to go back to what Sierra said at the beginning, I do love quotes. Although you do too, Sierra. So just,
we all love quotes.
We just quote Sex and the City, another fun pop culture thing.
Yes. You prefer Greek, you prefer ancient quotes.
Apparently.
Whereas Sierra likes the modern Stoics of Carrie Bradshaw.
Carrie Bradshaw.
You impressed that I know who the name was?
I am. Now, for extra credit, what are her favorite type of high-heeled shoe?
Oh, they Manolos? Does she like Manolos?
Bing, 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 bing.
Oh, yeah, she does.
You got it.
Good job. Rob's a modern male.
Yes.
But anyways, what I was saying, going back to what you're talking about, there's another great quote. I can't remember it's who said it, but it's basically, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And basically, it's how we ruminate the situation in our head, which is the core of point number 7, that we lose serenity in not what other people are doing, but in our opinion of what it is they're doing, in our perception or our judgment of whether it was right or wrong or good or bad, right? Going back to several weeks ago about our labels. And to that point, our opinions are 100% within our control. So
yes,
if you want to, if you don't like something, then, figure out how to work through it. If something's bothering you, then find a way to move through it, because nothing's going to solve that other than you.
And that's what actually one of the notes I wrote, because they had us go through the week and sort of think about these things and apply them. One of the techniques that is so helpful, which again, I'm self-promoting my course here, which is called Master Your Message, which helps you communicate more effectively. In particular, it's built for situations like this. When you're in a difficult conversation, your emotions are flying, pause, ask questions, because if you seek out the answer as to why someone did something or why someone acted a certain way, it might take you a few questions, which we walk through the course to give you some structural questions that you can ask in these types of situations. You might be surprised that they actually answer the question honestly. And then you can have your aha moment and go, wow, I way prejudged this and I didn't know their motive at all. I just assumed their motive, they're being a jerk. I'm like, well, no, they had good reason for this, because that's one of the other Stoic principles is assume most people are doing things for a reason. And most people feel like they're doing things for a good reason. And it's just that definition of good that we disagree on.
Yeah. To that point, that is the one that I struggled with here, and it's one of the Stoic principles that I think is the hardest to work through, which is point number 3. Nobody does wrong on purpose. People make mistakes, but they think that they're doing right. And I even wrote, I started next to it, I said, this is a tough one, especially when you can see that their intention is cruelty. And it's trying to break through that to try to say, okay, what's their real motivation here? But that's really tough when someone is being just intentionally cruel. And that's the one concept that I struggle with, is nobody does wrong on purpose. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe in their mind, cruelty is
Bingo.
a right, but it's hard to work through. That's one that's really hard to work through for me. And I don't know if you guys have had similar thoughts about that, but that's the one concept that I'm like, how can I needing to remind myself, nobody does wrong on purpose. They just don't know any better. But then there's the but, and it's like, but what they're doing is really unconscionable. It's like,
well,
how do you find that balance?
Amy, I agree with you. It is hard because sometimes, and this is where, as a mindfulness coach, I can't express enough. We hear the word mindfulness and we can't help but picture a monk somewhere. But really, mindfulness is about finding and being true to a real intention, intentionally setting up. And I think where a lot of times, a lot of the difficult people or difficult situations that I personally encounter, it's not that the person is maybe trying to be cruel, it's that their intention is only to serve their own good.
Mm-hmm.
And so when your intent is to serve your own good, or AKA selfish or self-centered or how narcissistic or however you want to say that, is that if that is their intent, is to serve themselves, then they're accomplishing that. What other people think and whatever other people get that message is their own problem. If my only intention is to serve myself and I serve myself, cool, did it, check. But where I think you probably struggle is you think, well, why doesn't everybody have the intention to be kind to others, or to consider other people's opinions, or consider other people? And that's where I think you could probably tweak it for your own thought, is they are serving their intention of self-serving. Not everyone has the intent of serving somebody other than themselves.
Yeah. And trying to find a way to reconcile with that and still be kind or understanding of it therein. Because to that point, I mean, there's also point number 10. Don't expect people not to do wrong, but don't allow them to hurt others. So it's trying to find that balance of, okay, if someone is doing something for purely selfish, intentional reasons, you can say, great, okay, I see what's going on here. This is to make you feel better or to get to the conclusion that you want and nothing else. But at the same time, then being able to say, however, that's not cool. Right, in the most effective way. Yeah.
How do you communicate with that person in that situation?
And not judge them, see it for what it is, but then at the same time, find a way to, I guess, compassionately confront them.
Yeah, but I mean, right. You know, if you need questions, ask questions. I mean, again, because what does your judgment ultimately mean? I think is one of the things that they try to get at. It's essentially, and I'll go big picture for a second, our judgments of other people are essentially meaningless. I mean, it doesn't change the outcome of what they did or how they are. That's exactly right. It's like your opinion on, I don't know, some political issue if you're never going to run for office. It's just an opinion.
Broccoli, it's an opinion on.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's so there. If you attach so much meaning to your judgment, your opinion, that will override your body and override how you communicate with that person. Where if you take a step back and you say, I want to know why you did that. Like, why do you troll people on the internet? Ask that person the question. That may give you enough space, because your judgments are natural, right? They come natural. It's your brain, it's survival, it's danger, 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 danger. That person's a danger. That person harms other people. I don't want them to harm me. But if you're strong enough, they, at least in the mental sense, they can't harm you. Mm-hmm. Physical sense, a whole different story, but we don't have time to delve into that necessarily. But if you can create that space to say, mentally, I know that they can't harm me. So let me figure out why they're doing this. That might provide enough space where you can let go the judgment, at least in the moment, and then reassess later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is very hard to do because, but again, it's you have an automatic reaction. And Sierra talks a lot about this in her course as well. Radical mindfulness is that your brain is wired to help you survive any situation. So anytime it senses danger, it's like, here's an emotion, run. Here's an emotion, be scared. Here's an emotion, something's messed up here. You know, so you have to override those because unless it's an actual life or death situation and you do have to run, pay attention. But more often than not in 2021, that's not the case. So you have to be able to push past that brain reaction to get somewhere, to the collaboration.
Well, and it really, I think that part of what is the practice is learning to discern when that your opinion shows up as something that's a wrongdoing. In what situations can you let it go and say, you know what, who knows what that person's dealing with, just let it be, forget it, don't let it affect you. And at what point do you need to actually, okay, this is going to hurt somebody, this is destructive, I need to somehow collaborate to make this better or to stop this person or whatever it is. And that's where the fine line is. it's know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to run.
Yeah. Very true. Very
Love Kenny
true.
Rogers making an appearance.
You know what? I love
here
it.
on the porch.
We go from Marcus Aurelius to Carrie Bradshaw to Kenny Rogers.
Mhm.
That's the type, that's the depth and breadth of insights that we provide here on the porch.
But the reason we're doing all this too is not only to become better people, but to try to understand how our own minds and body works. That helps us to be able to collaborate with more people. So as we go through these lessons, this is what we do as a company. We founded it based on these 3 principles. Sierra is our mindfulness expert, radical mindfulness. Amy is the teamwork expert, and I'm the communication guy. So we combine these 3 things, these 3 pillars, because what you realize when you do all 3 of these things, and we teach you the skills to be able to do them and to be able to repeat them, that you can do anything. You can accomplish anything, especially as a team, but as an individual as well, that you can move forward and you can, whatever childhood baggage you have that goes back to when you were born, because we all have it, you're able to not have to carry that baggage for the rest of your life.
Lighten the load.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to put it. We're lightening our own loads and trying to help you lighten your loads as well, whether that's at work, whether it's as a person. That's why we do this, because we're learning all these crazy lessons that we have for our lives and our areas of specialty, that adding these Stoic portions of it only enhances those.
Right.
So come say hi.
Yeah, come say hi, come join us. Well, and to that, I just want to add another quick note there that, when we talk about these principles and these programs that we offer, we say work or life, but the reality is that it's you. You are you. You show up as you in whatever situation you're dealing in. So we can say we can help you work through things at work, but it's really, we're helping you be able to navigate life regardless of the environment, regardless of the situation, because you're bringing, there's not work Amy. I mean, there is sometimes like work Amy and life Amy or home Amy, but still it's Amy. You're a person, you're flesh and blood, you have your own emotions, you bring whatever's going on in your life to all areas of your life. You can try and say you compartmentalize, but the reality is we really don't. We maybe a little bit, but those cracks start to show really quickly.
Well, and ultimately, if you have the tools in your toolbox for you, they're universal. I mean, you should be a good communicator with your boss, and you should be a good communicator with the busboy. I mean, it's just, and with your spouse and with your children and with your parents. I mean, these skills will serve you your whole life, every day. And I think that you're somebody that's worth investing in.
Absolutely.
It's a good rule for 2020. After 2020, a year of assessment, 2021 is update the skills.
I like it, from assessment to investment.
There you go.
I like that. So did you guys find this lesson helpful, Rob and Amy?
I did. I think it's important to have those triggers. I mean, I like how they right up front were like, don't try to tackle all of them at once. Just pick a couple and work on focusing those. So that way, thinking back to the prior week, how we started to create our own little morning reminder, our morning mantra, if you will. This is another example of that, but being able to just be more mindful and tethering it to when those situations get a little hairy, like you mentioned, Sierra. You kind of had your 2, and then your 3rd just kind of takes you back to number 1. It's like, and repeat.
Yes.
And
it's always a practice.
100%. And that's what, and we can downplay that all we want, the practice element of that. But life is essentially that. The more you practice anything, whether it's a 3-pointer, whether it's communication skills, being mindful, the better you get at it. But it's only one way to do it. There's no shortcuts to life. We all wish there were. I wish there was a magic pill, we'd be in shape and not have to worry about any viruses, but that's never going to be the case. I mean, maybe someday we'll figure that out, but where's the fun in that? Where's the journey
where's the growth?
And there's a lot of conversation going on in America about how to make life easier for people. I'm like, it's never going to be. There's always going to be a struggle. We're never going to be able to get away from that. And if we did, what would be the point of actually doing this life thing? We're supposed to learn and grow and be challenged and figure out how to deal with challenges and adversity. In these Stoic lessons so help us with that. And that's what I think I love the most about this one, Sierra, is not only are these 10 things, we're getting deeper and deeper, but we're building on the previous lessons and seeing how they apply to real life. And this is ancient wisdom that is still good today. Like these Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Zeno, all these Stoic leaders left behind these major nuggets because they figured out so many things on how to live that they were way ahead of their time, so much so that we're still using these lessons today.
Yeah. Well, the year on the calendar might change, but people are still people, and people still have struggles. And I'm with you. I think if we eliminated all the struggles, there would be no fun in that. Like, what's the point? The point is in living and learning and growing, and hopefully growing closer. I mean, I think if you look at every obstacle as a way to grow closer with that teammate or with that team, it will strengthen and make everybody better and strengthen the bond that you have, because you've been through an adversity and you've worked through and you've come out the other side. You know, you can't just quit everything when it doesn't work out. You've got to we got to figure this out somehow. We got to solve the problem. So that is about all of our time for today, guys. I want to thank you for being here as we dealt with some more difficult, frustrating people, difficult, frustrating situations, just another day in the life. And I hope you'll join us next week for week 26, turn difficulties into opportunities. Whoa, look at that. It's like they knew what was going on.
It's like they knew.
Imagine that.
Crazy. And also, you know, if we would love to have you follow along with us and subscribe or join us in our virtual book club. But even if for some reason you can't take the time to do that, get the book, man. It's so easy. It's easy to follow. Each lesson is, you know, a couple minutes a day. The pages, it's just a couple pages of concepts to read. Just get it. It'll help you in so many ways.
Especially when you don't want to do it. That's when you should do it. Because that's what turns practice into reality, right? That turns it into game time. Because you have to practice, or when it comes to game time, you're not going to perform.
Correct.
Yeah.
Always a good
winter training.
Yes, exactly right.
Well, thank you, everyone, and hope to see you next time on the porch. Namaste.